Hi, I'm Vaishu. I'm going to be helping moderate the housing and homelessness part of our day today. Um, so today we have the YMCA of Columbus and the YWCA. So if you guys could give a brief overview of what your organization does and who it serves, that would be great. Anyone could go first.
Awesome. I'll go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Naomi Marino, and I am the Volunteer and Donations Manager with YWCA Columbus. Here at YWCA Columbus, our mission statement is to eliminate racism and empower women through providing peace, justice, dignity, and freedom to all. We have a bunch of different programs to work towards this mission. We kind of break our mission into 3 statements where we help those in need, we ignite the community, and we educate and empower. Today in this panel, we'll be focusing on our work to help those in need. We have a 50-room emergency shelter for families that are experiencing homelessness in Columbus. And we also have our women's residency program where we provide permanent supportive housing to previously chronically homeless women who also have a history of a mental health illness.
Nice. Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Sheriff. I work with the YMCA of Central Ohio, YM. Good to see both of us here today. I'm also in annual giving and work with all of our volunteers. And at the YMCA, our mission is really to strengthen community by connecting all people to their potential, purpose, and each other. We sort of operate in 3 different areas: youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. And I'm here talking about housing today, really as part of that social responsibility factor. So we operate 3 different facilities. One is downtown, focused on permanent supportive housing for men. We also operate another permanent supportive housing facility on Broad Street, sort of all audiences. And then the Van Buren Center for Women and Families as an emergency shelter.
Thank you, Nick and Naomi, for sharing. My next question is, since the pandemic started, many individuals have lost their jobs. Have your organizations experienced any strain in resources?
For sure. Our housing programs, thankfully, because of our grant partners as well as some community donations, we were able to keep all of our staff in housing. But as an organization in total, we're operating with about a third as many people as we used to back in March, February. And of course, it's also been a strain on our actual housing system as people have been losing their jobs, facing sudden evictions that they didn't know were coming. That's definitely sort of increased the total population that we're trying to serve right now.
Yep, we're seeing the same thing at YWCA Columbus. We, back in March, went to only essential workers. We still obviously have our residents in shelter each and every day, so we need to be able to provide those services. But that has cut down on a lot of just extra stuff that we were able to do, especially at our family center. We have not had volunteers in the building since March, and our volunteers were able to provide a lot of resources that were helpful to our residents and staff. And we also are seeing heightened populations, and I anticipate that we will continue to see this increase in numbers as we continue to move forward, as courts open up and evictions are prominent. We anticipate seeing more and more people experiencing homelessness.
Scary. I was talking with our senior vice president sort of over all our different housing programs yesterday. And she was pointing to a study that she had read that over the next 3 months, assuming that no rental assistance bills are passed through Congress, we could see a 40 to 45% raise in the number of people experiencing homelessness just in 3 months. It's terrifying.
Oh, that's actually terrible. That was actually leading to my next question, but how do individuals who are experiencing a housing crisis find or hear about your organization in general?
That's a good question. So I know at least at the YMCA, a lot of it is through direct referrals. So it's very rare that somebody directly contacts the Y to get set up in either permanent supportive housing or shelter. But in Columbus, sort of hosted and funded by the Community Shelter Board, they have a hotline that people can call if they're experiencing a housing emergency, and referral to one of the YMCA's facilities is one of the options that can come out of a call to that hotline.
Yep, the exact same for YWCA. The Homeless Hotline is where if someone were to contact our organization, we would direct them there first, as they will do an intake and pair them with the shelter that best fits their needs and their experience right now. So it's all direct referral for us.
Thank you. And who would be qualified for the usage of your organization?
So for our family center, you have to be an adult over 18 with custody of a child under 18. That can look very differently. Sometimes we have single parents, sometimes we have large families with grandma and grandpa involved as well. We do tend to see larger families. Our average family is typically a single mom with 4 kids. And then for our women's residency program, because we're providing permanent supportive housing, you have to be 18 years or older, direct referral. You are a single female who has experienced homelessness or is currently homeless for a documented case of a year or longer as well.
Gotcha. We're pretty similar. So everything that Naomi lined for their women's residency program, we follow those same policies for our 40 West building, but for men, same qualifications, just the other gender. And then for our emergency homeless shelter, it is specifically designed for single women experiencing homelessness. However, we do sort of have a family section of the building, and that is sort of like Naomi outlined, 18 or older with a child with them. And it doesn't matter what parent is with us. We can accept a single father and a child, mom, dad, child, and whatever family dynamic is seeking help at that time.
Thank you. Is it ever difficult to meet the needs in the community? Is there like always a lot of people there?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. Especially as the needs are always changing and needs are so individualized as well, it can be difficult to meet the needs. At our family center specifically, we have 50 rooms. However, pre-COVID, we could hold up to 65 families, so the extra 15 families would sleep on a floor until a room became available. Now with COVID, we are limiting to only 50 families so that each family can have their own room to isolate if needed. So it's difficult to keep up. You know, homelessness is prevalent in the community, and so being able to cut at 50 is difficult. Also, just providing supportive services and behavioral health services can be difficult as well when we have such a large population at both our women's residency and family center.
Yeah, absolutely. I would echo that. COVID especially made it difficult within our housing system because of what Naomi mentioned with, you know, now you have to enforce social distance in all of these housing spaces, which have historically followed sort of a congregate housing model, right? Shared bathrooms, bunk beds in large rooms. It can get very cramped. Thankfully, our branches shut down our typical fitness centers. So we were able to keep the same number of people and serve the same number of people by converting some spaces in our branches that were gyms, fitness floors, what have you, sort of into overflow spaces. So we could look at our shelter, we could look at our permanent supportive housing buildings, deconcentrate how close people were together by moving them into these new spaces we created downtown and in the top. But yeah, it was a process, and it's definitely been a struggle.
With that, has your volunteer structure changed? And along with this, another person has asked if you have any virtual volunteer opportunities for students to participate in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had mentioned before that we stopped our in-person volunteering back in March. We are kind of reevaluating that decision on a monthly basis because most of our volunteers are directly working with our residents or back near where the rooms are. We really want to be smart about when we bring them back into the building, just because we want to ensure the safety of our volunteers and visitors, also the population we serve and our staff. With that being said, we have rolled out some volunteer opportunities that are virtual, a lot of ways to support us through like hosting a donation drive is amazing. We also at our family center provide 3 meals each and every day to our families. So we really rely on the community to help continue providing those meals, even if groups are not able to come in and serve. In addition to that, a big thing that has changed our work a lot is we used to bring in groups to provide activities at both locations. And that's been difficult now that we have all of these residents that we don't have a way to have groups come in to be able to provide activities and entertainment. So we've switched to being able to show videos or participate in Zoom classes that we can offer our residents. So that's a great way if you want to volunteer with us to record a video and send it on our way, or host a Zoom call of an art class or something like that. Those are just a few ways to volunteer with us.
Similarly, the YMCA is currently not doing in-person volunteering. Our most prevalent options when everything is safe and we're able to have in-person volunteers again are through our Van Buren Center. We usually have groups come in and do food prep and meal service all throughout the day for our different families and women sheltering there, as well as family engagement specialists who really just sort of walk around all of our family rooms, all of our community spaces, help look after all the kids who are staying there, help them with their homework, play games with them, what have you. Right now, our 2 sort of virtual options, same as Naomi mentioned, food access is becoming a little bit more difficult than it was at the start of this pandemic. It's harder to get the right resources. Some of our partnerships have been drawing back to focus on their own business models. So we are currently running a food drive. Any non-perishable fresh produce goods, either way, can be dropped off to our Van Buren Center. That is a huge need for us right now. As well as, oh gosh, what was I about to say? We are opening up a student support program through Van Buren. So for any school-age children or teenagers who are residing at the Van Buren shelter, but also trying to do virtual schoolwork, we will need a few volunteers to sort of jump on Zoom calls with them and help them through everything that they're working on. All of those details are on our website, by the way, ymcacolumbus.org/volunteer.
Along with that question, what are like other major asks and greatest needs from people in this time period when it comes to either like healthcare or anything else?
Yeah, so one of our biggest needs that will continue on are homemade face masks. We have residents entering the shelter and leaving the shelter all the time, and so we really need to be able to provide face masks for everyone. A huge need with that are children's face masks. We have about anywhere from like 100 to 150 kids at our family shelter at one time, and it is easy to think of the standard adult size face mask when you're making them. So the kiddo face masks are a huge need. Along with that, PPE has, since the beginning, we all know how difficult it has been to get Clorox wipes, even toilet paper, anything like that. So because of that, we've been experiencing shortages of those items in both of our programs as well. So that's a huge need. Similar to what Nick was saying, we are experiencing a shortage in food that we are getting dropped off and delivered. So we always need assistance with helping serve those meals, provide the meals, the different foods and snacks or desserts for our families as well. And then we always need personal care items that will never go away as we are continuing through COVID as well.
I would add on to that, sort of expanding on what I said earlier about food, individually packaged food items. A lot of what we're able to purchase is all in bulk, which is tough to serve, not necessarily able to be portioned out as well as we should to follow health guidelines. And a couple of our facilities are actually specifically designed for people who have already tested positive for COVID. So it's really great to have individually packaged items that can sort of be in their room that don't have to be grabbed from any sort of community space or even delivered. So yeah, that is huge for us right now.
Thank you. So there's a few other questions from the people in this webinar right now. First one is, how has the environment amongst the community members you serve changed, like between other families and when confronting their personal path, and how did that impact the relationship between the organization and the community members?
That's a good question. I can speak specifically for, our women's residency program. Each woman has her own efficiency style apartment. So she has her own kitchen and her own bathroom. And it's been really difficult as we have not allowed visitors into the building. And our residents already have some sort of mental health and or emotional health history. And so it has been difficult on them to limit that social interaction. So we have experienced that difficulty in trying to transition and how we can continue to provide our services virtually. A lot of our service coordinators and engagement specialists have been able to coordinate Zoom calls with them on a regular basis to continue that social interaction and provide a space for them. Similar with our family center, when you bring in a bunch of people into one space, no matter their past or what they're experiencing, you will get conflict, especially during this trying time. It has upped that a little bit. We do have on-site behavioral health specialists who are there to provide any assistance immediately, which has been great. But yeah, I just feel like everything with COVID has been heightened. And luckily we are still able to provide these resources and just kind of transition to thinking about different ways and virtual ways to continue to engage and support our residents.
Absolutely. And I would add to that, I think we've seen a lot of sort of additional stress put on all of our residents because the economic climate that COVID has forced us into is making it so that our residents are staying with us a lot longer than they normally would have, or that they plan to, or even in some cases than we plan to. So that's just sort of taxing the whole service model and making it a little bit more difficult for them to feel like they're making progress when there's not always easily accessible jobs or other services to help that progress along.
Speaking of that, within both of these programs, is there any outreach that helps find jobs for people who are searching for them?
Yeah, for sure. So every sort of brick and mortar facility that we have has a staff that is dedicated to employment services for all of that building's residents. We do partner with a few different programs around the community. One major one that stands out to me is Ywca's House. I think we go through their career services quite frequently. But yes, we do try to make sure that every person who lives with us does find a job, but we focus on finding them housing first. So everyone who's in shelter, we try to find them somewhere stable to live, somewhere on their own to live. And then once that has happened, focus on helping them find employment to further stabilize where they're able to be.
Yeah, it's the same thing for YWCA as well. We focus on a housing first model, so that is the primary goal for our residents. At both locations, we do have an employment resource center where we have computers and a space where staff can post job opportunities, and also where our staff can help residents with their resumes and any job interview skills needed. So that's a really great space that has been able to continue on. Of course, the job opportunities have been limited, but we still have our staff available to help find housing, find jobs. We also have social workers who are paired up with our families at our family center to help specifically tailor each path and each goal for the adults to help find the best job and the best opportunity for them.
I should also use this question to plug sort of a recent program that we started. I believe it was this past fall, so fall 2019. We call it Caring Kitchen. So our Van Buren Center has a massive industrial kitchen based inside of it. And we actually started a program where residents of that center sort of receive job training in the restaurant and cooking industry. And then all of the meals that they produce not only help support that facility, but they also support all of our before and after school care programs throughout the city of Columbus. So it's going directly into schools to make sure that kids have healthy snacks and meals after they're out of school, but before parents are able to get off work and pick them up.
Awesome. Has the pandemic created a limit to how long families can stay at your centers due to the demand, or is there no limitation to how long families or people can stay?
So we never had a limit to begin with, as when families enter, they are paired with their family advocate, who is that caseworker, and they create a goal plan that is tailored to each family. And as long as they are working towards their goal plan, they can stay with us as long as it makes sense, as long as they're actively working on that. Obviously, with COVID, there has been a lot of leniency as it's more difficult to find a job. It is more difficult to be out in the community right now. For example, we used to close our doors to the neighborhoods in our family center, which is where the rooms are. So during the day, we would close those doors to encourage families to be out in the community looking for housing and looking for jobs. Due to COVID, we're not closing our doors anymore, so people have a safe space to go during the day. So the length of stay is definitely increasing as we are being more flexible. Just because of the current environment, it is more difficult to find housing and find a job.
Yeah, 100% of that at the Y as well. We'll stay with somebody for as long as they need us. No limits.
What are the key objectives for YMCA and YWACA, sorry, during this pandemic for people and families?
Good. So really just to make sure that everybody has the resources that they need to not just make it through COVID, but still be strong and get it afterwards. So housing has been one of the primary things that we've been working on, making sure that nothing about that program diminishes because of the economy. We're continuing to meet the needs of everybody who comes to us. Beyond housing, we've also been looking a lot at student success. So how are we reaching out to families and children and making sure that while school systems experience a lot of instability, are shifting the way they deliver services, even shutting down as we look back in March and April, that the Y can still be there as a backup to them. Hey, we will come to your house, we will give you preschool materials, coaching from Zoom calls. This summer, I actually believe it starts right after Labor Day. Most of our branches will be running programs where if a school should be offering a virtual day of learning and that student should be at home, they can instead come to the Y. They'll have all the technology they'll need, access to Wi-Fi, as well as staff there to help tutor them through whatever they may need. Those are pretty much our two primary things right now.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, very similar. Our key objectives are to continue to meet the needs of our residents and continue to provide those services that we would pre-COVID as well. We want to ensure success for all of our residents and including the students. That has been a huge, hurdle for us lately, trying to figure out how we can support those students while they are staying at our family center. But we want to continue to meet those needs and be able to provide a successful outcome for everybody that enters the center.
Awesome. Thank you guys both for sharing about the YMCA and the YWCA. Unfortunately, our time is over for this panel, but we still have a couple of unanswered questions which we'll be giving both of you guys to answer. And our next panel will start at 10:55. Thank you so much again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for having us today.
Goodbye.